Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there is a ton of news stories to get into today, so let's talk about William Regal. Yes, William Regal, of course, was amongst the latest WWE releases. You would have thought someone like William Regal, considering all he's done for WWE over the course of the last decade or several decades in his in-ring career and behind the scenes, specifically in NXT, all of the names he's helped coach, develop, scout, sign, all that kind of stuff. You thought he'd be immune from the WWE releases, but that wasn't the case as he was released earlier this month. It looks like Impact Wrestling is certainly interested in bringing in the former WWE European Champion to work behind the scenes at Impact Wrestling. Whether or not it works both ways, we'll have to wait and see. But nevertheless, Impact Wrestling is interested in bringing in the legendary William Regal. Now, of course, as I mentioned, WWE released Regal and several other longtime employees on January 5th as part of the major overhaul of NXT and the WWE Performance Center staff. He spent 21 years with the company, but in an update, Impact Wrestling producer Tommy Dreamer appeared on the Busted Open radio show this week and revealed how he offered Regal a job recently, either as an on-screen authority figure or at the commentary table, or maybe behind the scenes as well. This is what he had to say, quote, "If you look at management and you look at, let's say, the New York Giants, their GM is retiring. And then there goes the head coach that he picked," said Dreamer of the Performance Center departures earlier this month. "There goes everyone associated with that person. Triple H is no longer in charge, and everyone associated with him is gone. The only guy who's remained is Shawn Michaels. But Shawn was a Vince guy before he was a Triple H guy. Regal, the moment I heard, I shot him a text and I said, if you want to be a commentator at Impact or you want to be a general manager figure, just let me know. He will have something when he chooses to." Now, despite his lengthy career, Regal has never worked for TNA or Impact Wrestling. It remains to be seen if he's under the traditional standard 90-day non-compete clause with WWE, which would make him a free agent on Tuesday, April 5th. However, because he's technically staff and technically behind the scenes, he might not have any non-compete clause. Now, Regal had been working as WWE's Director of Talent Development and Head of Global Recruiting and the main talent scout for the company. He also worked on TV as the NXT General Manager until this past fall. Regal's son still wrestles for the NXT UK brand as Charlie Dempsey. So, William Regal to Impact, I am sure, and I spoke about this when I did the live stream. I went live when William Regal was released by WWE, so be able to see it on the channel. I would be stunned, frankly, if every single company, pro wrestling company out there, did not offer William Regal a job the moment he got released. I'm sure once the news broke that he had been let go by the company, I'm sure people within AEW, Impact Wrestling, MLW, the NWA, New Japan Pro Wrestling, any pro wrestling company you can think of called William Regal or shot him a message saying you have a job waiting for you, because he's just that good at what he does. He's just as good of a scout, of a producer, of a whatever it may be, authority figure on screen as he was as a pro wrestler. And he was a damn good pro wrestler. He was one of the best pro wrestlers, one of the most underrated pro wrestlers. And I'm not just saying this. Every time I talk about William Regal, sometimes people say, Owen, you're just saying that because William Regal's from the UK, he's from England, and people over there in the UK worship Regal. We do. I went to the television tapings, the WWE TV tapings, and every time William Regal came out, he got the pop of the night because he's from the UK. But it's not even about that. He's just that good at what he does. Legitimately, I would say if you look at the main roster right now in WWE, conservatively, 85% would say they owe their WWE career to William Regal. He was that influential. He's been that influential in building up NXT and the main roster in terms of the talent bringing in, because he was a talent scout. He was the head of global talent recruitment and talent scouting. He spotted all of these pro wrestlers and gave them opportunities in the WWE. So he has an eye for talent. He has relationships with existing talent right now because there's plenty of talent available because WWE's released so many names. And names that never even made it to WWE. I'm sure he said to several talents over the years, I want to get you in WWE, but WWE said no. So he's got all of these relationships with talents that have either been released, not signed, or still with WWE and their contracts expiring in the future. He would be invaluable to any pro wrestling company. So I have no doubt in my mind that several pro wrestling companies, as again, whether it's AEW, Impact Wrestling, MLW, NWA, whatever Ring of Honor is going to look like in April, or New Japan Pro Wrestling, or even some pro wrestling companies that don't exist yet. If you're like someone like Jeff Jarrett, and we know there's rumors about him making a new company, a new promotion, or whoever it may be, you would call William Regal and say, I want to give you everything. I will give you whatever job you want, because having you as part of my company makes us better and it makes us more attractive. So, of course, Impact Wrestling have offered him a role and offered him a position in the company. Whether or not he decides to take it with Impact Wrestling remains to be seen. I know that Tommy Dreamer has said that he's been offered a role as a on-screen authority figure, a general manager, or working behind the commentary desk. Regal did commentary for NXT right when it was rebranded, or FCW was rebranded as NXT. I think he did color commentary as well a little bit when it came to FCW. And of course, he did commentary with NXT when it was still technically, it wasn't a game show anymore, I don't think, but it was NXT like Season 4, NXT Redemption. He did commentary and he was good. He wasn't the best color commentator ever. He stumbled on his words a bit, and he's far better of an on-screen authority figure than he was as a commentator. I think the Impact Wrestling commentary team is fine at this point. Really, of course, like Tom Hannifan coming in, the former Tom Phillips. I would have preferred it was Tom Phillips or Tom Hannifan and Matt Striker as the two. And then you could have had D'Lo Brown go back to working as a producer behind the scenes. Not to say that D'Lo Brown is bad, because he's not. I just think that would have been the better selection. But I think the commentary situation is fine in Impact Wrestling, certainly. And I don't think that would be the best use of William Regal. If William Regal came into Impact Wrestling and his only job was to be a color commentator, I'd say that's like having, a Ferrari and only going at 30 miles an hour. It's not the best use of it. His best use is behind the scenes, and he does make a very good on-screen authority figure. Then maybe that would offer something to the show, but his best use and his best influence is behind the scenes. So if I was Impact Wrestling, I'd say you can come in and you can basically have a lot of authority behind the scenes as well. Whether or not he'll get that, I don't know. Do I expect him to go to Impact Wrestling? Honestly, I really do think AEW will offer him a position. I think they'd be crazy not to, considering the experience he has, and also because we know they're looking to sign people. Again, because of the relationships he already has with talents, it's an obvious choice for them. So I think ultimately he'll probably end up going to AEW, to be honest with you. I mean, all of these names, it's still shocking that they were released because they're Triple H guys. It just goes to show that Triple H has no authority in WWE anymore. I still wouldn't be shocked if maybe Triple H tries one last grab, I guess, at authority, and to try and bring back William Regal in some kind of capacity. What capacity that would be, I don't know. So I could maybe see him going back, but who knows? Impact Wrestling might be the best place for him. He does live in Florida. Impact based mainly in Tennessee, but who knows? Who knows? I mean, again, that's why I think it's logical that he would go to AEW, because they're still based in Florida, Jacksonville. So we'll see with that one. But certainly it's interesting, no doubt about that. Now, let's talk about a possible departure from Impact Wrestling. We've seen quite a few recently. The next one could be Jake Something, because you have a big update when it comes to Jake Something's Impact Wrestling contract. Now, one of Impact Wrestling's most imposing stars is close to becoming a free agent. This is a report by Fightful Select, of course, their Patreon service. Be sure to check that out and subscribe. It's well worth the money. Fightful Select has learned that Jake Something's Impact Wrestling deal is set to expire very soon, specifically at the end of February. Now, at that point, Jake Something will officially be a free agent, of course, unless a new deal with the company is reached at that time. Now, Impact Wrestling recently has had a bit of a turnover of talent, seeing recurring stars such as Rohit Raju leave the company, in addition to Brandy Lauren, Petey Williams, who is now a producer with WWE, Kira Hogan last year left, Matt Striker left at the end of the year, AC Romero left as well, but they've also brought new names in, likes of Lady Frost, PCO has just signed a new contract, or signed a contract with Impact Wrestling, Zicky Dice, and other names have also come in. We've also seen all of these Ring of Honor invaders. We don't know whether or not all of them have signed new contracts, but there's a possibility they will, or they have. Now, when it comes to Jake Something, we're told, or it's been reported rather, that February 28 is the end of Jake Something's deal, but we don't know if this is actually his last day or just the day that his contract expires with the company. Now, many, as I mentioned several times here on the channel, on the Impact Wrestling roster, are actually working without formal exclusive contracts as well. As I mentioned, someone like Matt Cardona has been working on a handshake per appearance deal of Impact Wrestling for over 12 months now. So just because Jake Something's deal expires doesn't necessarily mean he'll leave the company or he'll stop working Impact Wrestling television tapings. W. Morrissey's contract expired, and whilst he was figuring out a new one, I think he still might be negotiating a new one, he still worked the Impact Wrestling television tapings. So this could be a similar situation. Now, Fightful does say that they haven't heard of any extended talks between the two sides, but they have learned that there was at least a brief discussion on the matter about possibly negotiating a new contract. Now, of course, Jake Something, who is now 32 years old, has appeared regularly for Impact Wrestling since 2018, working a few dates prior to that in 2017. Of course, if we get any more information on the matter or on his contract negotiation, we'll speak about it here on the channel. I'm a big fan of him. I am a big fan of him. I think that he's got obviously a great look. I think his work's great in the ring. One thing you would argue that maybe he needs to improve is his mic skills, but that's the same for a lot of pro wrestlers nowadays. But obviously, there's something there. I think that Impact may struggle to keep him, and a lot of the times when contracts expire in Impact Wrestling, you say, are they going to go to AEW? AEW seems to sign everyone. I think this would be a case of WWE being really interested, because despite WWE's philosophy changing when it comes to talent scouting, they're looking more towards younger guys that have an athletic background, that come from the NBA, the NFL, or a college program. You've got the Next in Line program that they've implemented when it comes to NXT. Despite that change in talent profile that they're looking for, Jake Something still ticks the majority of their boxes, in that he's a big guy, he's still young. Again, he's only 32 years of age, so he's got his entire career really ahead of him. He's not in his 20s, obviously, but he's still incredibly young, certainly for a pro wrestler. And again, he has the look and the size that they're looking for. They're going for WWE developmental of the early to mid 2000s. Big guys, young guys, athletic guys. Jake Something ticks every single box. So I think he would possibly have an offer from WWE on the table. Would AEW be interested in Jake Something? Maybe, but I don't really see what he does in AEW. That roster is so big, and I'm not sure in the same way while he fits WWE's talent profile, I'm not necessarily sure he fits AEW's. So I think he'll have an offer from WWE. Obviously, Impact will want to keep him. Again, he's young, and certainly over the course of the last 12 months or so, he's really started to stand out more. Obviously, he split from Cody Deaner in the tag team and became Jake Something. Have I been completely blown away by everything he's done? Not loads, but I do think that there is way, way more to come from him. It's just a case of whether is that going to come in Impact or is that going to come in another company like WWE. We'll have to wait and see. Ultimately, there's about 6 weeks left on his contract, and the big indicator obviously will be in these upcoming TV tapings at the end of the month and in February, how he's booked. If he's booked into something major storylines, chances are he'll probably be staying. But as I mentioned earlier on, it's not out of the realm of possibility that he just might work without a contract in Impact Wrestling as well. So that's certainly worth keeping an eye on too. Speaking of contracts, I want to talk about this, and I don't mean to talk about this just because, I told you so or anything like that. But when we were talking a lot about Moose's contract last year, the Impact World Champion Moose, his contract was expiring in July last year. And I said at the time that WWE were definitely interested. 100%, they were definitely interested, especially someone like Moose. And I expected a contract to happen. I thought he would actually leave the company. I thought he'd go to AEW or WWE. Ultimately, he decided to re-sign with the company. Now he's the Impact World Champion. He's spoken recently with the Busted Open radio show and revealed that there actually was an offer from WWE on the table, as I speculated at the time. This is what he had to say. I just re-signed with Impact in July, I want to say, June or July, whenever, and I mean it was a hard decision because there were other offers. There was the chance for me to go to WWE, and AEW is out there. It's just one of those things. I am one of those guys where I have a set of goals I want to accomplish, and if I don't accomplish those goals, it's not going to sit right with me. So as he mentioned, there was an offer when it came to WWE on the table. He ultimately decided to turn it down because he hadn't achieved what he wanted to achieve in Impact Wrestling. And I said at the time, I feel like this was the right move for him. We have seen really radical improvement in Moose over the course of the last 18 months or so. prior to the last 18 months, he always had the size, the look, obviously the athletic background coming from the NFL, but his work in the ring was, so-so. His promos needed improvement. His physique at points, certainly 2016, 2017, was not great. But every single part of that over the course of the last 18 months have radically improved. Obviously, he's in the best shape of his life physically. His promos are far better than they used to be. His matches are just astronomically better than they have ever been. I mean, legitimately. Going from about January of 2021, his work, you'd struggle to put holes in it, honestly. Some of the matches he was having last year were incredible, absolutely incredible. So he made the right move. I don't know how many years he signed with Impact for, whether it was 2 or 3. He's obviously got a much improved deal financially. He's got the ability to work outside dates and for other companies like New Japan, which is why he's worked some of those New Japan shows. So I think right now is the right move for him. Obviously in the future, could he go to WWE? Absolutely. They'll always have him because of his background, because he has the look, the size, and he used to play in the NFL. They'll always have him, but I think it was the right move at the right time. And obviously it's benefited for him because he's now the Impact World Champion. Finally, I wanted to talk about the ratings for Impact on Access TV on Thursday. I spoke the other day and I said I wasn't sure, despite being a great episode of Impact Wrestling, what the ratings would look like. Not that it really necessarily matters when it comes to Impact Wrestling, because people consume it in different ways and television ratings are what they are. But some good news when it comes to the Impact TV ratings this week, because Thursday's post Hard to Kill edition of Impact Wrestling drew 111,000 viewers on Access TV, according to Nielsen via Showbuzz Daily. Now this is up nearly 7% from last week's 104,000 viewers for the Hard to Kill Go Home episode. Now Thursday's Impact drew a 0.03 rating in the 18 to 49 key demographic. This is up 50% from the prior week's 0.02 key demo rating. After failing to make the cable top 150 for 4 straight weeks, this week's Impact ranked 147th for the night with that key demo rating. This week's Impact ranked 111 for the night on TV viewership on cable, tied with the NFL Now on the NFL Network. Now Thursday's Impact drew the best audience since the November 18 episode and was the best key demo rating since December 9th. Thursday's Impact was up, as I mentioned, 7% from the week before, while Thursday's key demo was up 50% from the week before. Now, Impact's viewership for the past week was still down, though, over 30% from the same week in 2021, while the key demo was down 40%. We're also getting to the point now, it must be pointed out, we're nearly a year out from when Impact Wrestling was doing really good numbers. Now, obviously, December 2020 is when they did their record number on Access TV with the Kenny Omega debut episode. But even in January, February, they were doing really strong numbers. 180,000, 190,000, 170,000. And that's when the AEW Impact Wrestling relationship was really kicking into full gear, with the likes of Matt Hardy, Private Party, Kenny Omega, etc., all showing up. So obviously, they're going to see some decrease from then, but they were still, this time last year, we were still in the time when you didn't know what was going to happen on Impact Wrestling because the spoilers went out there. I think what we're just seeing at this point, and I know we've spoken about this time and time again, so I'm not going to go over it a million times, is just that regardless of the show you put on, whether it's the best show or it's the worst show or whatever, the fact that the results are out there, the fact that the results, especially if it's buzzworthy, which is what we had, right? We had a Ring of Honor Women's World title change happen on this past week's episode of Impact Wrestling. Because that was buzzworthy, that was out there for just a couple of days beforehand, and it greatly hurts the show. Unless the show is live, you can travel around to all of these different cities, which is what they're doing, but unless the show is live, the fact that it's taped and the fact the spoilers are out there will always hurt it. It will always happen. Obviously, there's a distribution issue when it comes to Impact because it's on Access TV. Not everyone has it. There are other ways to get around that. But ultimately, the biggest problem is that Impact Wrestling is not live. That's why it's down 30% from the prior year. And that will probably continue to go down this year because there'll be low points in this year's Impact Wrestling television programs when the content isn't good. Thursday's episode was great, and it probably deserves a better number. But until they go live, ultimately, that's going to be the problem. Anyway, guys, as always, it's just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on all of these Impact Wrestling news stories we've spoken about today? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about Impact Wrestling, AEW, WWE, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the comment section below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube, go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestling News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right-hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video, along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or have you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.